Let's bring in Republican Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who has endorsed Donald Trump's reelection bid. Governor Abbott, thanks so much for being here. I want to start with the new Democratic ticket. You said that, quote, Tim Walz will be a rubber stamp for Kamala Harris's deadly open border policies, refusing to admit there is a border crisis, opposing border wall funding, and supporting sanctuary cities, unquote. I want to play something that Governor Walz said last week before Harris picked him as her running mate. Take a listen.
I don't disagree that Governor Abbott is pointing out some of these things, but he treats it in the most cruel, inhumane way instead of saying, and this is where we should reach out and say, the governor's not wrong, they need help. Texas shouldn't by itself absorb or pay for this problem. We should all collectively figure out how to do it, and that was Langford Cinema. And Donald Trump didn't want it. To dismiss that Texas has a point that we could all work together on is bad politics and bad policy.
So two questions on that, sir. One, if Democrats win, do you think would you be willing to work with Harris Walz and their administration on immigration reform and closing the border and border security?
Well, as governor of the largest border state, I got to tell you, that ticket is very frightening. As bad as Joe Biden has been on the border, Harris Walz will be even worse on the border if all you do is look at the policies and pronouncements they have each made. Talking about Walz, listen, he as governor was a magnet for illegal immigration by providing state-funded benefits for illegal immigrants, by supporting things like sanctuary cities. He will be a disaster, as will Kamala Harris, if you look at the policies that she stood for when she first ran for president. And what she's done is the person that Joe Biden handpicked to be in charge of immigration issues. You can see under Biden-Harris, we set an all-time record for the number of people who cross the border illegally. You can only imagine how much worse it would get under Harris-Walz.
So is that a no? You would not be willing to work with them?
So here's the deal. They both stand for open border policies, and Walz himself came out against border security measures like a wall, which, by the way, I'm the only governor in American history to actually build a border wall. I can tell you, walls work. And I expect Governor Walz, as well as Kamala Harris, if she were to become president, to work with me to build border barriers and things like that. But I don't think it's going to happen. Because I got to tell you, when you look at the concern that people have in Pennsylvania, Midwesterners in Michigan, Wisconsin, these other key states, these are people who are against the open border policies that America has suffered through over the past 3.5 years. I think they're going to vote overwhelmingly in favor of President Trump and put in office someone who will once again enforce the immigration laws that already exist and once again secure the border.
Well, you talk about the border and open borders. I mean, since President Biden signed that executive action tightening border crossings, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection reports during June, quote, encounters between ports of entry were 29% lower than in May 2024 and were the lowest monthly total for the Border Patrol along the southwest border since January 2021, unquote. We're looking at a chart right now from the U.S. Border Patrol that shows southwest land border encounters going back to last October. And you can see a peak in December, and then from May to June, there is a sharp decline. Do you give the Biden-Harris administration any credit for that drop?
So, Jake, know these facts. You said it peaked in December. Remember what happened in January. January is when I ordered the closure of this 50-acre park in Eagle Pass, Texas, and the National Guard wired it shut, a location where Biden had been allowing 5,000 people to cross a day illegally. Now, on average, there's less than one person crossing a day illegally. Also, since that time, in Texas, because of measures that I have taken, illegal border crossings have gone down 85%. Knowing that Texas represents 2/3 of the entire border between the United States and Mexico, you can see mathematically why the illegal border crossings have gone down so much. Jake, another important fact, however, is this. One thing that Biden has tried to do is to camouflage the people coming across the border. They're no longer walking across the border as much as they used to. Instead, Joe Biden is flying them across the border in very large numbers and sending them to cities across the United States of America.
One of the things that Governor Walz said in that clip that I ran is that he was expressing sympathy for Texas and saying that Texas shouldn't have to solve this problem on its own. And then he said we should all collectively figure out how to do it. And that was Langford Cinema, and Donald Trump didn't want to do it. That refers to the effort at a bipartisan border security bill, as you know, helmed by conservative Oklahoma Senator James Lankford and independent Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona. And indeed, that was sandbagged by Donald Trump, saying it was bad. And the reporting was that Trump wanted the issue to campaign on, which he is indeed campaigning on. Would that bill not have at least helped matters? Senator Lankford definitely thinks so. Senator Sinema definitely thinks so. Why sandbag something that would have helped with border security just to have a campaign issue?
A couple of key points, Jake. One is there were never enough votes in the Senate to get that passed. Remember, there was one piece of immigration reform that actually did pass one of the two chambers. H.R. 2 passed the United States House. What the Senate should have done was to take up H.R. 2 and work on that. That would have been a true compromise. There was zero chance that the Lankford bill was going to pass out of the Senate, zero chance it was going to pass out of the House, and I'll tell you why. What it did was to authorize a certain number of illegal immigrants to be allowed into the United States on a daily basis. It would have codified illegal immigration in the United States. I found it intolerable and unacceptable, as I think most Americans did when they learned the details of it.
I want to ask you about another key issue in the election, abortion rights. You signed a law banning nearly all abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy. That's before a lot of women even know that they're pregnant. In June, CNN reported on a Journal of the American Medical Association pediatric study that found between 2021 and 2022, infant deaths in Texas surged 12.9% compared with a much smaller increase in the rest of the United States of 1.8%. And in that same time period, infant mortality rates rose 8.3% in Texas compared with an increase of 2.2% in the rest of the nation. Are you concerned at all about a possible link between your state's abortion ban and these disastrous increases?
So, Jake, for one, I'm unfamiliar with that study, and I don't know if for a fact it does tie a cause and effect relationship. For another, obviously, it leaves out the math of all the babies who survived and are alive. We have a record number of babies who are born now who did not lose their life to abortion. And this is an issue that you need to know Kamala Harris is going to have to deal with, just like Democrats had to deal with in the state of Texas. Kamala Harris supports abortion to the very last second before a fully developed child in the mother's womb is born. That's late-term abortion. The baby can definitely feel the pain. The baby who, if it survives one more minute, will be born, but instead will lose its life.
Where are there these abortions being carried out up until the moment of birth? I keep hearing Republican politicians talking about that, and I mean that's infanticide. I don't know where this is going on.
It is in many states. It is the law of the states. It's the law in California, where Kamala Harris is from. It's the law in Minnesota, where Governor Walz is from. And Governor Walz, from reports I've seen, was even against a law that they had that would have required medical care for any baby who actually survives an abortion. That's something that needs to be looked into if he's against that, because that would be another horrific policy by the Democrats in their zeal to try to kill young babies.
I want to ask you another question, sir, before you go, and that is at his rally in Atlanta, Georgia, President Trump went after the popular Republican governor and his wife, Brian Kemp and his wife. Here's just part of what Trump said.
And Brian Kemp, your governor, who I got elected, by the way. If it wasn't for me, he would not be your governor. I think everybody knows that. He's a very disloyal person, isn't he? Very disloyal. But think of the wife. We can never repay you for what you've done, sir. Now she said 2 weeks ago that I will not endorse him because he hasn't earned my I haven't earned her endorsement. I have nothing to do with her. Somewhere he went bad.
Do you think it's helpful to Donald Trump to attack Governor Kemp and Governor Kemp's wife?
Listen, if that's all he talked about in the speech, that would be one thing. But the reality, what he really talked about in that speech were the policies about how chaotic Kamala Harris would be in her presidency, about the way that she would drive up inflation even more with her anti-oil and gas policies, the way that it will kill thousands of jobs in Pennsylvania if Kamala Harris gets elected, as well as thousands of jobs across the country. And in doing so, drive up the price of what people pay at the pump, what they pay for groceries, things like
that's
that.
not what I asked you about.
Trump is focused on the issues that resonate with middle-class Americans, and that's exactly why I think he's going to win Pennsylvania and win the election.
You think that attacking Governor Kemp and his wife are issues that middle-class Americans care about?
I think what I know from having won statewide elections many times in the state of Texas, what voters really care about is the way that you will improve their lives, not any offhanded statement that you make. And the policies that Trump stands for are in so much contrast with the leftist extremism of Kamala Harris. Remember, she was named the most liberal senator in the United States Senate. She has talked about those policies when she first ran for president: open border policies, giving free health care to illegal immigrants. The ideas and policies that Kamala Harris stands for would destroy the United States of America. That is what voters will be thinking about when they go cast their vote for presidency, and that's exactly why Donald Trump is going to win this election.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott, thank you so much for your time today, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.